Welcome back, you guys, to Choking Hazard. My name is Zach, and today we're going to be reviewing the first episode of The Boys. And basically, it's going to be kind of like a review. It's going to be what I think, my opinions on each scene. At least the main scenes that have some real meaty shit involved in it. But I'm just going to go ahead and just break down what I think about it, what's going on. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Yeah, so this is a really interesting scene. So Gus Fring from Breaking Bad is explaining to these other military, I wouldn't call them soldiers, they would be military captains. I don't know the vocabulary when it comes to the military, so fuck me. He's explaining how military contractors, so people who are technically not in the military, they don't have to go through chain of command the way that the normal military does. So he says, well, why does my super soldiers have to go through chain of command in the military when we're a contractor? You know what I mean? We shouldn't have to obey what you guys are saying, and you should have a leader outside of the I guess you'd say the battle zone commanding them that's not in the military. They go, well, who the fuck would, who's going to be commanding your super soldiers, or, you know, I'm going to call them super soldiers, but, you know, the superheroes. And he says, well, of course, it's me, duh. So it's just a big power grab. I just kind of enjoy this scene because, A, I like the actor that plays, I'm just going to call him Gus, because I know him as Gus from Breaking Bad. I like him, and also I just like the fact that it's kind of diving deeper into the organization of how the superheroes work. So they're basically in the same ring as a military contractor. So I think that's really interesting. So they don't technically have the rules of the government over them completely. So I think it's because there's a gray area in there. I do actually really enjoy this Batman character, which I think is pretty funny because I like the whole scene where I think they're in Afghanistan or something like that. What does it say? Give me a second. Oh, in Syria. So they're in Syria right now, and I don't know why I'm saying they. Batman, I'm just going to call him Batman, is in Syria right now. He's just taking out militia soldiers, just one by one. I don't know what that character's power is, to be honest, because I know Batman doesn't actually have a superpower when he's, you know, in the DC universe, so I'm not sure how this guy's Compound V works with him. I'm assuming maybe he's just like extra silent, which if you think of that as like a superpower, just being really fucking silent and super strong, that's actually a very overpowered superpower when it comes down to it. If you think about just being ultra silent, you could assassinate anybody anywhere, no one would be able to hear you unless they're seeing you. So he has, like, you know, he's black cladded, he's hard to see at night, and he's fucking silent. I think he's actually going to be pretty OP if our main characters ever have to fight him at some point. But he's kind of low-key super dangerous. So, dude, that guy that got his head fucking ripped off, or his jaw just completely dismantled, that was a brutal scene. I really enjoy gore when it comes to movies and shows. I'm just kind of a gore whore when it comes to that. I really like when they use physical props for things when it comes to gore. It's just like there's almost like it's almost like a type of art when it comes to graphics and things like that in movies and shows, and I just enjoy it. I know a lot of people just don't like they don't like just overt gore, but I love Doom, I love Berserk, I love a bunch of other types of mediums that have just absurd amounts of gore in it. I love Kill Bill. I really like that over-the-top stuff, and the fact that they have it in this show where it's almost like, you know, in real life, if you had superpowers and you're just fucking you just rip people apart, you know what I mean? It would be an absolute bloodbath, and it's completely different than how they would show in like a DC comic or a Marvel comic, which, I mean, they do have gore in some of those. It's just usually not completely over the top because it's made for like teenagers and children, you know, so I just enjoyed the scene where the Batman character is just going around just ripping people a new one. Rip that dude's jaw in half. See, that was sneaky of Gus right there in this little scene. He's talking about casualties during battle, and he says, like, legally speaking, we're going to have technically you're not supposed to have anybody die, right? But other than that, in reality, we want at least a 30% casualty, what would you call it? I wouldn't say benefit. What would be the best word? Casualty allowance, that's the word for it. I like the subtlety in the scene where the fire dude, that he blows himself up. He almost sounds like he screamed like Allah Akbar or something like that before he just fucking exploded. So I think there's a little bit of subtlety there where they're kind of hinting at things like in real life a little bit. Also, too, the choice in music during this whole fight scene and the politics going on, which I think this is a great intro for the show in general, because it had the politics, which is for one group of people, that really enjoyed the politics like myself, and then people who also like just the physical, superhero type of shit. And they basically compacted both of those scenes together where they're flip-flopping between the politics and the action that's going on. And I think it was just a great opener to a new season. But I also enjoy, then after, while they're playing the Rolling Stones in the background, and the Syrian dude, Syrian terrorist guy that has a super fire power, explosive powers, which is just kind of funny that they gave that to him. He explodes, and he realizes that he did virtually no damage to the Batman character, and he just the Batman guy's just sitting there yeah, well, what was that? And you could tell instantly once he exploded and this guy was still standing, he's like, oh, I'm fucked, aren't I? It's like, you are. Yeah, that's the face of a man that you just know, he knows he's fucked at this point. He's like, oh, I'm done. I guess his name is Black Noir, and I actually didn't know that. I think it's too hard for me to remember, so I might just keep calling him Bad Batman or something like that, because that's what I've been using. And I like that name better. I think there's like a ring to it, You know what this character reminds me of? The Bad Batman is that he has this thing about him where he's almost like caring to children. Now I don't know if this is like an act, but it seems like he didn't need to actually do this during this situation where he has a little bunny. He's trying to calm the kid down, where he's just blood is running down his chest and everything. He almost seems like his mentality is like a Big Daddy from BioShock, where he's just ruthlessly brutal when it comes to anybody that's fucking with him, right? But when he is around the children, he's like Mr. Oh, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm the person to take care of you. I just think that's the weirdest two things to put together. I like it. He's actually becoming one of my favorite villains, other than the main one, Homelander. Homelander's obviously the best one right now. Just as a background character, I think Bad Batman's pretty cool. This scene's also really cool, or not really cool, it's just a good scene. It makes you hate Homelander so much. I think one of the most annoying things that normal people have to deal with is just dealing with fake-ass people. Homelander is the fakest-ass person on the entire planet. He's just, it's ingrained in his character. The way he's supposedly born, that's all fake. He doesn't have a mom or dad, he's fake like that. His mother/lover, which was kind of fucking weird in the last season. Yeah, that she was fake as shit. He's fake right here. He puts on this persona of I am for truth and justice, and I have such a morality, and I feel so bad for people, and he has a conscience. But in reality, he's the most sociopathic fucking. He's more like a psychopath, to be honest. But he's a psychopathic asshole that doesn't give a shit about anybody. This scene just kind of encapsulates that, where he's you can tell that he is just putting on a fucking fake ass show, and it makes you just hate him so much. You're fuck this guy, and he's at a funeral too, Jesus. And they have Starlight singing for the funeral afterwards, and you can just tell she doesn't want to be there. It's so fucking fake. It just reminds you of Hollywood so much. It almost reminds you of the Oscars, but in a funeral, if that makes any sense, where people are singing and they're kind of being very preachy about everything. There's good parallels between the superheroes in this and Hollywood elites in real life. I enjoy that parallel because it's very true. I was actually getting myself a drink in this scene because I kind of I understand what they were trying to show and her singing and stuff like that, and I missed this fucking picture, and I think it's a hilarious picture of him being little, and you can't even see him. He's just a little cute little pudgy baby. I think that's fucking hilarious. It's awesome. What's weird is they consistently name news stations out loud. I think CNN they name TMZ. I think they name MSNBC at some point in this show, and it's weird because they can say those things out loud, but then when they actually, every time they show the TV, they always have some sort of weird substitute for the news stations, VOT News Network. They could have put Fox News, VOT News, Fox News. You see, that makes, it sounds like it. And then there's later a station, I think I'll end up taking a picture, I think it's later in the episode, shows not CNN, it's NNC. And that's CNN. It's just that they're naming it something different. But then they also like name it out loud as CNN and certain parts in it. So it's just weird that they are allowed to name stuff out loud, like verbally, but like physically and visually, they can't actually show the news station. I think it's just kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know why they have to do that. You might as well just go ahead and go full balls deep and just say, it's fucking Fox News, it's CNN, they're all assholes. You know, I think that would have been really cool if they just bit the bullet and did it, but I don't know what the legal aspect is on that, so I don't know. This part with the deep is kind of illuminating. They're not, at least they're not, the superheroes are not really interested in the police. They like, if someone's like, oh, we're gonna arrest you, like they don't give a shit. The thing that bothers them more is not even their arrest, but their social destruction. So, you know, their Facebook, if they have a Facebook, I'm not sure, but their reputation destruction. That's what they care about the most. So when he's acting like an asshat in the bar, instead, which I think the bartender must have been dealing with some bullshit with him for a while, because he's got his number right here. The bartender's like, you need to leave, and he's like, I don't want to. And then the bartender says, go, or I call TMZ. So like a news station that will just fuck up his credibility and his social media and all that jazz. So I think that's interesting that they kind of they kind of already showed that earlier in season 1, but I just like that they're giving another example of it right here. Another scene right here that just elaborates on how fake everything is. It's all marketing and horseshit like that. It's very Hollywood-like. And that's because I'm trying to say, I almost keep wanting to say Transcendence, but it's Translucent. Translucent died, and it's all just fucking material things that they're trying to sell outside of there. So it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's so fake. I love it. So yeah, they're right here on Bot News, and there's a couple people that are crying because of Translucent, and Homelander's like hugging people. I don't know if it was Translucent's dad that he hugged or something like that. He's like, yeah, we miss him too. And they're walking down kind of almost like a red carpet sort of deal, and everyone's talking about them, and he's holding Starlight's hand, and he's being a real fucking piece of shit because he's so fake. Man, you just want to kill Homelander. And I hope that they do it sort of soon, or at least get him back real good, because he's such a good bad guy. He's almost like, he's that type of bad guy that you just want to slap around, kind of like King Joffrey from Game of Thrones, except King Joffrey didn't have the physical might to bring, to kind of push his agenda along, and he's also not that smart. Homelander's pretty smart, and he's strong, and he's an asshole. So he's just a good villain, and I just love how they portray him. He's great. So this is Hughie watching the news, and Starlight being next to Homelander, and the fact that he's just worried about her, basically. And what's also cool about this scene is that he is stuck in a fucking closet. That's where he's living now, because he's a wanted criminal at this point. I feel so bad for Hughie. He has to deal with his girlfriend talking to one of the worst people on the planet. He's living in a fucking storage closet, and to top that all off, he can't get any sleep because it sounds like there's someone like with a jackhammer upstairs. So he's just not doing very well, and it's a great intro to him because it just kind of thrusts you into his world right off the bat, where you know what happened in the first season. I mean, I hope so if you're watching the second season, because like, what a retard if you were just jumping into the second season. But he's just the fact that it thrusts you into his world. He's stuck in a closet. You get to see the aftermath of his actions from the first season. He's a fugitive now. He's fucked. He's considered a terrorist. So I think it's just it's just great. It's a great intro to Hughie for us, since season 1. Yeah, this scene right here where they're just like, they're trying to kind of show her off as like, oh, well, she's a normal person, that she's trying to dress up as somebody that's like really super. But the problem is, though, is that you're trying to kind of showcase that, a lot of the stuff that she's doing is fake, and she's, just a normal person, and she's taking off her makeup, things like that. She's still really good looking, regardless of all this other jazz taken off of her. But, she's just hot. That's all I'm saying. They're trying to make her look kind of ugly here, but it's just not working. So this is a very subtle little scene that they show. It's only like a couple seconds long, but she's sitting there looking at A-Train, just making sure, I think she's like, how do I say, secretly wanting him to die from his heart attack. And the reason is, if you remember season 1, she saved the group from him. He was kicking the shit out of everybody, and she ended up kind of being the one to save them. And A-Train's one of the only witnesses that understands that and knows that. Problem was is he's taking a bunch of like superhero heroin, and now he's on life support because, you know, that's what happens when you take superhero heroin. You get super heart attacks. I really enjoyed this scene because this is also another getting to know the characters scene, kind of like Huey and Homelander, and kind of introducing everybody since the first season. And they're showing the group just kind of doing what they're doing, and fucking Frenchie is sitting there selling guns, illegal weapons to people, and they're just being like scumbaggy criminals that you normally just hate on the street. I think the other character, what's his name? Give me a second. Is that what they call the one of their buddies on the team is Mother's Milk? I actually didn't know that. I was thinking they were saying something else. Mother's Milk? Is that his name? Is Frenchie Mother's Milk and then Huey? And the Butcher? I have no clue. That's weird. I didn't know that was his name. Maybe I'm just going crazy. Maybe I forgot from the first season. But yeah, so I'm just gonna say Mother's Milk. Hopefully you guys don't kill me if that's not his name, because it just says on the casting list right here. Because I was like, I forgot what his name was. So I look on the casting list, and yeah, I guess that's his name. But yeah, he's like making guns or something like that while they're selling guns. So they're just doing the what would you call it? They're doing the criminal thing, but because there's a worse criminal out there, which you would say that the Seven are the worst group of people, that this actually doesn't seem that bad, and I just like the context of that, the perception of things. They look very scummy, and they're not as shiny and pretty as the Seven, but the Seven are morally worse than these guys. Never mind, he wasn't making guns, he's pulling a bullet out of somebody, so he's like the medic of the team, but instead of having like a criminal go to the hospital that will end up eventually getting him arrested, he's like, no, you come down here, I'll go ahead and fix the wound for you, and everything will be alright. So you don't have to go ahead and go to the hospital and get thrown in jail right after. So this is a really cool scene right here. I hope that this kind of, the relationship kind of bridges out into different options for the show, because right now, it almost feels like a Romeo and Juliet story, because of the fact that though they're just the most uncompatible people with each other, not personality-wise, I'm sure they can do just fine, relationship-wise, but just circumstantial bullshit. They are the worst people to be grouped with. He is a wanted criminal by, I think, the police, the military, and the Seven, or whatever it's called, Vosh or whatever, the big corporation that, makes the superheroes. And she is one of the biggest stars in the Seven. So she's a Hollywood celebrity that probably shouldn't even be with this guy in the first place. But she's also one of the group's mascots. So this is like, she's popular, he's a fugitive that is the most wanted criminal, and them being together right now is just, like, you should not be doing that. It's the most dangerous relationship ever, and I feel like it's gonna go down that road of being like a Romeo and Juliet thing. He got his girlfriend killed. Well, he didn't get his girlfriend killed, but his girlfriend died the first season, obviously. And that's what kind of thrusted him into this world in the first place. And now that he's with Starlight, or is trying to be with Starlight, there's going to be one of those situations where he's going to try to sacrifice himself probably for her down the road. At least that's what I'm trying to visualize in my head, or where they're going to go with this relationship. And I feel it's going to be one of those kind of it's either going to be one of those Greek tragedies, or it's going to be like Romeo and Juliet, which is another tragedy. By the way, the amount of horseshit they have to go through just to see each other is actually ridiculous. They have to meet each other on subway, so that if there is anybody tracking them, it would be hard for them to get a signal in the subway because it's underground. And then B, when they call each other, they have to buy a new phone and a new SIM card and then break it and get a new one. It's just like they're going through all sorts of steps just to go ahead and see each other. And when they see each other, they're only with each other for like a split second before they have to split. So that's pretty crazy. The things you do for love, you know what I mean? So I haven't watched episode 2 or 3 yet, because I'm trying to review these step by step so I can kind of get what my original thoughts are. Because if I watch all 3 episodes, right, then I'm going to have a different perspective on the first episode than, if I watched 2 or 3 episodes down the road, and and know the context of everything. So I'm going step by step so you guys see exactly how my train of thought works. But I feel as though they're going to make the Deep one of the main characters in this season, and the reason is that he's having a bad time, and he kind of understands how fake the Seven actually is, and he's had some problems, which is okay. I don't really give a shit about the Deep, personally speaking, but I can see him being a main character that ends up helping our protagonist. So the fact that they already showed him earlier and now they're showing him again, and it's kind of just about him spiraling out of control and nobody really liking him, that it might actually end up pushing him onto the good guy's side. So that's where my train of thought is going right now, because they're showing a lot of him almost as like another character. They showed Starlight, they showed Huey, and the last the last couple scenes right now. So this scene and then the scene with him in the bar is about the Deep. So he has to be one of the main characters of this season, because he's taking up 1/3 of the screen time right now. Yeah, so the Deep ends up getting thrown in jail because he's acting like a complete asshat, and he's kind of harassing children, which is kind of a naughty thing to do in society, just harass random children, and when you're a full-grown man. And yeah, so that's kind of a thing. Now he's thrown in jail. And by the way, side note, how the fuck did he get his arms that big? Like, his whole body's like really skinny, and he has really big fucking arms. I want to know what his workout is. But anyways, moving on. And one of the other superheroes ends up bailing him out because he's a nice dude. I think, what is his name? Let me see what his name is, because even the Deep doesn't remember. His name is the Eagle, and that's kind of the Deep doesn't remember his name either. So the fact that I don't remember it makes sense. He wasn't in the first season, so we're just starting to know him right now. But yeah, he bailed him out, which is a really nice thing for him to do. And he's kind of seems like a more down-to-earth superhero and not nearly as in the spotlight and complete asshat like Homelander and I wouldn't say Starlight's an asshat, but he doesn't have to put on that persona of just like absolute fake bullshit, So the group is watching the news right now, and they're finding out that they're wanted people. They probably already knew that, but they're just getting more backstory on the news about their wanted posters and what happened to Billy Butcher, because they haven't seen him since season 1, and the reason they haven't seen him since season 1 is he kind of went against their plan to go ahead and get his vengeance on Homelander. Trying to kill his mom/lover, weird shit like that. So they're going through that on the news. They're kind of giving you just a little bit of backstory. Not backstory. They're rehashing what happened for you, just in case you forgot, which is, that's helpful, because I didn't forget, but some people might have. And they're in this time. Frenchie's like, something could have happened to him. He could have died. He hasn't called back. And then Huey, which has kind of a grudge against him because they went against the plans in the first place, and he thinks that Billy Butcher is kind of an unreliable leader at this point. He says, no, he's too big of an asshole to die. So that's how Huey thinks of Billy Butcher at this moment. So they're having this discussion with the team that they're saying that they need Butcher because he's a great leader, which makes sense because he is a great leader. And Huey kind of wants to put on the big boy shoes to become leader. So I don't think Huey has what would you call it? He has the fortitude for it, like mental fortitude. He just doesn't have the experience of being a leader. And also, too, Billy Butcher he's like a con man. He's like a used car salesman, is what I was trying to say. And he knows how to spit the bullshit to get information out. And he's very underhanded. And I don't think Huey has that underhandedness to him that they need at the moment. So that's just personally what I'm thinking. I don't know if anyone else thinks anything else, but that's just kind of what I'm going off of. And right now, Huey doesn't think that they need Billy Butcher. I don't know. I kind of don't like where they're going with this whole this narrative personally, where within the boys, within the squad, they're going to have some sort of feud against each other. That just annoys the shit out of me. I like it when the boys are together as a solid unit. I don't like it when they kind of throw unneeded drama into the group. It's like everybody has their own priorities. Like Huey wants to get back and get a revenge for his dead girlfriend before. Now, I'm not sure if he wants that now, because he already has kind of a new girlfriend because he forgot about the other one. And he just kind of understands how shitty the Seven are at this point. And Mother's Milk wants his wife and daughter back because he's not able to see him because he's a fugitive now. I'm not sure what Frenchie wants. I don't know if he has like a girlfriend or whatever. But Billy Butcher wants his life back as well. So if you're able and you're capable of eliminating the threats that are holding your kind of dreams and your goals down, I'd say go for it. You know, so I mean, Billy Butcher, the fact that he kind of fucked them all a little bit just to go do his own thing, I think anybody in the group probably would have done the same thing given the circumstances. That's just what I think. Because I wouldn't say they're all scumbags, but they're all in it for individual reasons. They're not in it for the team's goals, you know? I really like Homelander, and the reason, there's a couple of reasons. Obviously, the normal ones where he's, he's completely fake, and you just love to hate him and things like that. But there's also a couple separate reasons. I like the fact that you can tell that he's fucked in his head. Like he was made to be messed up. You know, like I wouldn't say they purposely tried to mess him up, but the way they raised him, because he's such a superpowered person compared to the other team, that he was definitely raised in a lab, and they've already confirmed that. But him like orgasming to this fucking bottle of milk is just it puts like an extra layer of like, you know, he's gone through some shit when he was a child, just for the sake of becoming a superhero that probably nobody should be subjective to. So the fact that he's, you know, like, it's just such a weird scene, but I like it when they give really weird quirks to bad guys or characters, you know, just to show them that they're really unique and that they have some personal problems. You know, they're not just bad to be bad, you know, which I like that they're showing this whole Mother's Milk thing, even though it is fucking weird. So this one bitch walks in that nobody likes. I forget what her name is, but I'm just going to call her the bitch because she acts like it literally all the time. But she walks in and she's like, it's going to be really hard for somebody to replace her. And obviously Homelander agrees with that because that's like his mom/lover. Like, who the fuck is that person? You know, that how can you find a person to be your mommy/lover unless, I don't know, man. I'm not going to go down that fucking rabbit hole. But so yeah, he's like, yeah, it's gonna be really hard for us to replace her, obviously, especially for his sake. And she also brings up the fact that they found another person to replace Translucent, and Homelander just puts on this creepy ass smile, and he's like, really? And it kind of reminds me of what is that scene? You know what it reminds me of is if he was Jim Carrey, and you know how in Ace Ventura, he'll just be like, really? You know what I'm talking about? It seems like that's kind of what he should have said, just exactly like Jim Carrey right here, because it's almost like that sarcastic, really like, oh, really? You know what I mean? I like it. But yeah, he's definitely doesn't give a shit. So I really, really enjoy this scene where the bitch is talking to Homelander, and they're watching the new blind superhero that's supposed to replace Translucent do his martial arts and stuff in the middle of the ring in the gym. And during this whole thing, she's explaining, not because of his superpowers or anything like that. She's like, he is a handy capable superhero. That's something that we need, because it's all about PR, and it's all about getting the clicks and everything like that. It's not really about being a superhero. It's all about popularity and having the right people for the right job. That whole diversity quota sort of thing. And she goes through the whole diversity quota, which is just, I like that they're throwing that out there, because it's totally like Hollywood to do bullshit like that, where it's like, we need our diversity quota, and we need a handy capable, transgender, women of color, binary, some bullshit like that. It's just like totally Hollywood 100%. Fake bullshit. It's not about who can do the right job for the right thing. It is 100% like, we need the right diversity for our movie, you know, or we need the right amount of black people and Asian people and this and that, and it's totally like that. And she runs through all the bullshit right here, and it's awesome. Yeah, Homelander's being a complete asshole in this scene, where he's like, you can see me? Wow, that's incredible. He's like, and then this guy goes, You don't need super eyes when you got super ears. And then Homelander ends up rebuttaling. He's like, you're not just a hero because you have superpowers, but also what you've had to achieve and go through. So he's going through the whole, like, because you're handicapped sort of deal. And it's like, it's so, like, it's like such a fucking... Oh my god, I hate it so much. They're totally just jacking each other off, like total celebrity bullshit, like you'd see up on like the Oscars or something like that. It's just the worst fakest shit ever, and I love it. I love it for the bad guy characters. It's great. Homelander in mid-conversation just stops the conversation. He goes, I have one question for you guys. Do you mind if I ask it? And then I'm just gonna, what is it? Susan Karen fucking bitch. I don't know what her name is, but she goes, yeah, go ahead and say it. And the blind guy's like, yeah, sure too. And I was not ready for this scene at all. It completely got me off guard. This is a great scene. I really like this scene. So Homelander walks up to the blind guy and he goes, so what happens if someone does this? And he smacks the dude's fucking ears, like superpowered smack his ears, and pops the dude's eardrums because he has super hearing. So that's the only way he can see. And he makes this guy blind and deaf, which is just fucking ridiculous. And which is just the worst, most asshole, like the dickest thing you can possibly do in a show is just cripple a person who's already crippled even further. It's like, what the fuck? And it really shows off how fucked up Homelander is at this point and how unhinged he is from the events of the first season. Yeah, dude, this is a brutal fucking scene, too. And, man, Homelander is the worst type of villain. He's just getting progressively worse, too. Right after this, too, he ends up talking to the Karen / bitch girl or whatever, the new mommy character. And he basically says, everything that happens within this superhero community goes through him now, not her. Because, you know, I think the character, the mom character from the first season, was the one that kind of stapled him to the ground because she was the only one that knew how to calm him when he started going psychotic, you know, through her momminess and her weird fucking sexual fantasy with him. And without her, and with her betraying him and him having to kill her, it basically snapped him. Like, he already was hanging by a thread, now he's fucking just unhinged, you know. And yeah, he's gonna be a real problem. And the way they end up kind of going throughout this first episode, you can just tell that even with the superhero community or whatever, is it Vosh or whatever, the company, he's going to be a liability for them, like 100%. And she is 100% like, oh no, what happened? This is not good. Because I think she was actually almost 100% blind up till now. I could be mistaken. I just don't remember all of the first season. But she could have been 100% blind to the antics of Homelander. I think she always kind of viewed him as like a decent guy that obviously was a Hollywood superstar, so he kind of has to go with the flow a lot of the times. But what she just witnessed now and how he's becoming so authoritarian to her and everybody else around, she's like, oh my fucking god, what have I gotten myself into? And you can see that in the expression on her face right here. So this is a really weird scene. I'm just going to kind of skip past some of the redundant stuff. And Starlight is spying on... I forget what this dude's name is. Let me check real quick. Yeah, he's such a small character. I don't think they actually name him on the casting list. But he's like doing this weird sexual fantasies to like weird psychopath people or whatever, where he like, oh, whatever you want, man. You can chop off my arm or whatever. I don't get it. But I guess he's making money out of it. It's really weird. Like I think it's almost like a snuff film fantasy, you know, just really weird shit. And I guess he's doing that with this dude, so that's pretty weird. Starlight takes a picture of him. She's obviously going to use that for probably leverage later in the show, or later in the episode. So yeah, let's keep moving. So this guy ends up falling in. He basically just kind of falls down the stairs with one of his buddies. He needs medical attention for whatever happened to him. And we don't exactly know at the moment, but he is fucked. I mean, his arm looks just thrashed. Like he's going to get that amputated. Just knowing, because I'm a paramedic, and just knowing how arms look and stuff like that, he's probably gonna get that chopped. There's no way to get rid of that. He's probably shattered all his bones in his arms. His skin is mangled. The cartilage that has to do with your wrist and everything like that, it's probably just completely gone. It's all fucked up. The tendons, they could probably reconstruct his arm a little bit, but I don't know, man. It looks like it's far gone right now. But they end up finding out that there's a super terrorist that is the one that hurt the dude. He basically threw a whole fucking boat at him, so that's the reason why all his ribs are broken and his arm is completely thrashed beyond all repair. And so that dude is either fucked if he doesn't go to the hospital. I mean, he's either gonna die or he's just he's gonna have to get that arm amputated and get patched up real nicely. I don't know, but yeah. So that's a new villain that we're going to have to figure out. So this is a really interesting conversation that they have in this meeting, or this little get-together room. I forget what the type of meeting it's called, where they kind of it's like a PR meeting, I guess you could say. And they're going through all the buzzwords. What would you rather have the bad guys be called? Super villains or super terrorists? And Homelander's in the back office behind the mirror, where they're kind of they're marking all this shit down to make sure that how they're gonna do the PR game with America and things like that. And he likes super villain because it makes him seem more like a superhero, because that's what you call bad guys and super in comic books and stuff like that, super villains. But the thing is that the whole point of this meeting is, when you're calling a bad guy something bad, right? You want them to what would you call it? Demonize them as much as possible. So in reality, what you really want to call the bad guys per se is super terrorist, because the super part makes them a superhero, but the terrorist part makes them feel more down to earth. It makes them feel like a Syrian terrorist or a Russian terrorist, or like somebody from a country, and not just some super villain, like some guy who just gets spawned from the darkness of the ether in the black hole of whatever abyss. So Homelander, considering he's a superhero and now he's kind of in control of everything at this point because he's becoming really authoritarian, everybody raises their hand. What is more frightening, super terrorist or super villain? They say super terrorist. Homelander wants super villain. And they go through saving the world or saving America. Like who likes saving a world better? And everybody raises their hand, and Homelander's like, I don't give a shit about the world. I give a shit about America. Like who's paying for us? I guess he doesn't give a shit about America, but he's like, who's actually paying our bill? Is it Americans or the world? And they're like, well, it's the Americans. Like, okay, well, it's fucking saving America then. So Homelander doesn't understand the PR business of things. He's just in it for, what I think it sounds good, So I think he's fucking himself royally right here, and you can kind of tell that he doesn't understand the politics of everything. He's just the muscle and the mascot. He actually doesn't understand how to sell anything. He doesn't understand the political nonsense. He doesn't understand any of this shit. So this is kind of an interesting scene. There's actually a lot of little subtle details that you wouldn't really catch the first time watching it. So actually right now I've caught a couple of things that I didn't see my original time viewing this episode. But Carol, which is, she sounds like a therapist. I'm going to call her a therapist, but she's something else. And that was one of the things that I didn't realize in the beginning. So she's a therapist. Carol says, no, I'm not a therapist. Therapy is counterproductive to what we're doing. So she's not a therapist. And a lot of times, like with therapy and things like that, it makes you more individualistic. It makes you understand yourself better. And it makes you not really give a shit about what other people think about you. It's more about what you think about yourself. And the issue with that is that they don't want you to not care what other people think. They don't want you to have self-discipline. They don't want any of that. Or at least Vosh or wherever company she came from. Her job is to get him back up on his feet and become the superhero for the company. She's not there to teach him like self-discipline, morals, and like how to feel good about yourself. That doesn't help their gains. That doesn't help the company at all. The company just wants him to become a superhero and not be a complete dickhead out in public. So she's not a therapist per se. She's just a person there to rehabilitate his superhero narcissistic bullshit. Because the thing is that the Deep is starting to understand that no one really gives a shit about him. Without the media, without being on the Seven, without whatever, he's completely lost. He's completely lost in the world because that's what he lived for, and that's what his purpose was. He had no self-determination. He had nothing. He has no motivation other than the people that are patting him on the back and being yes men. So now that everybody's against him, he just doesn't. He just lost it. He doesn't know how the world works or anything. So the thing is, I'm going to say a couple other things about this. I get that they're going down this road to kind of what would you call it, to humanize the Deep. And he might actually end up becoming a good guy later. So I can get this. I get where they're going, where it could go, and I hope it pays off in the end. But personally speaking, right now, his background story and him kind of being like self-doubtful and being kind of moody and not knowing what to do, I don't give a shit about him. He's an asshole character, and there's more interesting things on the screen than his backstory and what he's dealing with right now that I would like to get to. So that's the thing, is that I get where they're going with it, and it could pay off in the end, which I'll applaud them when it does, or if it doesn't, I'll probably ridicule them for it. But right now, personally, for the first episode, I don't give a single fuck about the Deep. So they should have done something to hook me a little better than just to have him sitting at a bar and being like an asshole and getting thrown in jail because he's at a kiddie pool. They should have done something that was more engaging, if that makes any sense. I'm just sitting here watching him be an asshat, and I'm like, all right, well, I don't really give a shit, That's just personally for me, personally speaking. He was having a talk with Mother's Milk. He's basically saying that he went and saw Starlight. Their buddies are basically saying, hey, that's not a good idea, especially if you care about her, because if you care about her, you don't want them getting in, you don't want her getting in danger, especially because she's on the bad guy side. They'll execute her if they find out that she's working with you. So that's the thing, is that he was kind of having this debate in his own head. He's having this conflict where he's like, I love her, but, so I want to see her, but I know that this is probably bad for her. So he's having some conflict on that. And for me, I understand where they're going with this. Personally speaking, I would let her go until they figure all this bullshit out. That's just me. That's just me thinking. I'm not a, what would you call it? An emotional thinker. This is just me as a person. I'm more of a logical thinker. So when things that are illogical and more based on emotion, I don't get it as much. Huey ends up explaining too, as kind of a rebuttal to them being like, stop seeing Starlight. He's saying, well, hey, I'm actually talking to her, not just because of romance reason, but the fact that she's able to get a Compound V, the drug that makes them superheroes, as almost like a blackmail on the company. So it's a good thing. They understand, they're kind of in on it, and then the next scene kind of explains that further. Starlight ends up seeing the guy who chops his arms off for money, because I guess it's the whole like snuff fetish or something like that, and he's explaining that, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. They used to be kind of like co-workers together. They're all, friendly and everything like that. Well, she explains to him that, hey, you need to go ahead and get Compound V because he works at a, what would you call it, a facility for, is it Vosh or whatever the company's called? I don't remember what the company's name is, but the authoritarian company that makes the compound that makes superheroes. He works as a lab rat for them because he has these regenerating abilities where someone chops off his arm, it grows right back, so it's not a big deal for him. And if they need to test something on him, he has these regenerating abilities where it doesn't affect him. So she's like, well, you work at that facility as a lab rat, so why don't you go ahead and while you're at that facility, grab me a dose of Compound V? And he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm a lab rat. Doesn't really make any sense. They're not going to allow me to just stroll in there and grab whatever I want. She says, well, I have proof that you are a complete weirdo, and I'll send this to some sort of news, TMZ or some bullshit. And he's like, I thought we were friends. She's like, nope. So she's playing the game and she's starting to become more, she kind of reminds me a little bit of Sansa from Game of Thrones, where she was naive in the beginning, and she was like that, like, oh, well, I'm kind of like almost like that princess mentality sort of deal where, oh, I'm going to be a part of the Seven, and that was my dream, and everybody's going to be nice to me. And then she quickly figures out that it's not what it seems to be, and now that she's in that world, she understands how fake it is, and she's playing the political game and that manipulative game to go ahead and get on top. So she's starting to do the whole Sansa narrative route. So we end up skipping to this next scene where Homelander and what the fuck's her name? Wonder Woman. She hasn't really been in this season that much, so I forgot her name. What is her name? We're gonna skip to the scene where Homelander and Wonder Woman are sitting there with the military, doing the whole military spiel. It's a commercial where they're very pro the Marines and stuff like that, which is it's just a marketing campaign. It's just to make them look good for the average Joe Schmo. But anyways, we're going to skip a little bit. So we get introduced to this new character called Stormfront, which she is just like, you end up figuring out that she's kind of, she's like this rude, bitchy type of character that doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks. So she almost seems anti-productive for the Seven because she's very anti-establishment. And you end up seeing that here. She walks up to Homelander and says, I'm a new part of the team. And Homelander, like they showed earlier in the show where he smacked that dude's ears, he wants to be included into everything that's happening within the superhero community, or in the superhero group, the Seven. He's like, I am going to be the one that okays the people. I'm not going to be out, and I'm not going to be in the dark on any of this shit. You tell me fucking everything. Right, and she walks up on in the group right while they're doing the commercial, and she's videotaping, and basically she says to Homelander while videotaping, so you can't like smack her ears or do something to her weird, that hey, I'm the new part of the Seven, and all he can say is yeah, okay, because he's on camera, because he's just like all the other twats in the group where he's all about maintaining appearances. As soon as his appearance is gone and he looks like a complete asshole to everybody, nobody's gonna like him, and his whole persona falls and breaks the ground. So she actually pulls it off pretty good. She's actually very smart here, using the camera and using what would you call it, publicity to make sure that she's safe, which is great. Now I don't know if she did that purposely, or if that's just how she acts normally with the camera. Like like kind of like those people that do TikTok, where she just has her camera out all the time, and whenever she wants to make a video, she just is on command. Boom! I have social media. I got to get the clicks. So I'm not really sure if that's what her game was, or if she knew that Homelander was an asshole and was and might possibly kill her because of this whole situation. That she had the phone out in defense, but I don't know. We don't know that yet. I can only assume things. Homelander is so pissed right now, and it's kind of funny because before she walks up on onto the stage, she says to her followers, "Yeah, this is not a real military base. You think Homelander and Wonder Woman are gonna eat MREs out in the desert somewhere? Yeah, fuck that. They're a bunch of props, basically." So she she basically calls out the bullshit, kind of how somebody would call out Hollywood horse shit, so I like that. The problem is with her, and I end up kind of, this is where my brain is going with Stormfront. Someone added her to the team for a reason. If she was actually really bad for the Seven, and calling out all the bullshit, they probably wouldn't have hired her, especially because she's so open about being like anti-establishment. So for me, I think they brought her on, Stormfront. They brought Stormfront on because she's anti-establishment. Because there's a group of people that, for example, I'm kind of anti-establishment when it comes to things. For example, I do not like Hollywood. I don't like Hollywood actors. I don't give a shit if I saw a Hollywood actor out on the road. I'd just be like, oh, that's another human being. Like you're a great actor. You're great at being a fake person. That's great, but that doesn't give you any moral ability over anybody else. It doesn't make you smarter than anybody else. That doesn't make you anything except probably more popular. That doesn't make you smarter. Doesn't make you great. That doesn't make you anything. So for me, it's like when I see these Hollywood actors in real life kind of virtue signaling and talking about morals and stuff like that, I'm just like, why am I getting morals from people that act as a fake person for a living? So I'm very anti-establishment when it comes to that. So what I think they might have brought Stormfront on, like the reason they brought Stormfront on into the group, is because she's anti-establishment. In the sense where people like myself, if I was in this world, would be attracted to her as a character. Because she's a good-looking girl. She's anti-establishment. She calls out the nonsense in Hollywood. For example, a lot of people will say in real life that Ricky Gervais, the guy who like called out all the Hollywood nonsense or whatever during the Golden Globes, they said that he's good at bullshitting. Some people said that. So you can either think of it as that's actually his real opinion, where he doesn't like the Hollywood fakery. Or you could say that he is just doing the whole anti-establishment thing that kind of promotes his own page and his own glory. Just as because it gets all the anti-establishment people on your side. So I don't know if it's for gains that she's doing this, or if that's just how she really is. And I think that maybe it's for the former. So there's a really sweet moment with Mother's Milk, and they're talking with Susan, and Huey's all there, and this is kind of a cool little thing. They're talking in secret right now, at least they think they are. And Mother's Milk ends up explaining, he's like, hey, do you ever see my family? Because he can't be with his family because he's a fugitive at the moment. Susan understands that. She says, yeah, I know what's going on with your family. Your little girl's she's being a soccer player. She's playing soccer now. And Mother's Milk is like, oh my God, soccer, that's great. Because I guess he's probably like a little girl daughter. I just don't remember if they showed his family earlier in the first season. I'm not quite sure. And he was just kind of sitting there, being like the third wheel in this conversation, and then what's his name? Mother's Milk ends up showing that video of that guy throwing that boat on the other person. So Mother's Milk ends up explaining to Susan that about the guy at the boat and how he's like Indian, sort of. He probably came from like he's either Indian or he is Vietnamese or something like that. And I'm not sure where Susan ends up going with this, but she goes, "Oh my God, my brain has been itching for this puzzle piece for so long, and I think you just dropped it right into my hands." So we don't really know the context of what she's talking about. You're just like, "What puzzle piece? Like, how does that help your theories? About the boat guy and him being kind of like an immigrant." A guy who is a super terrorist that kind of jumped in that they just found out, and it's like, oh, that's kind of strange. I don't know what's going on. So Mother's Milk ends up going, okay, so what's the whole picture? Like, explain it to me. And as she's explaining, she gets this nosebleed. Yeah, she ends up explaining while she's getting this nosebleed that it's Vought. I keep saying Vosh for some reason. It's Vought. Vought was the one that is the one that's kind of trying to make a coup from the inside. And what she means by the inside, I'm not sure if she's talking about within the community of Vought, like the industry, or if she's talking about in America as a whole. Like, I'm not sure what she means by a coup from the inside the company or inside America. And I think she's probably referring to America, but she gets this nosebleed and her head fucking explodes right in front of everybody. And my God, was that kind of shocking. I was not expecting that either. So I'm trying to figure out how that even happened in the first place. I want them to explain further into that, instead of just kind of, I hope they do. Homelander has this this confrontation with Gus from Breaking Bad. And basically what's going on is Homelander is trying to wave his big dick around like the American flag and show off how big his wiener is basically to him. And he's like, well, I'm going to be the guy who is in charge of Vought, and I am the one that will end up kind of taking control of everything and all that stuff. And this guy knows the political game. You know what I mean? Like Homelander thinks he knows what's going on. He thinks he knows what's right. He thinks he knows. He doesn't understand the political aspect of everything and what leverage actually is, you know, because he's so used to just intimidating people, being so much stronger and faster than everybody. But he ends up quickly realizing that in reality, just being physically stronger where you can beat the shit out of somebody might not give you the edge over them. And that's kind of what happens here. Gus basically explains, hey, you keep thinking that this is a, what would you call it, a superhero company. And he's like, it's not a superhero company. It is a drug company. You know, we make drugs. That's it. He goes, superheroes is not even our main goal, right? Like we don't give a shit about that. You know, we're trying to sell. So basically, Homelander was trying to show off his dick. He's like, oh well, I'm gonna leave if you guys don't do this, or this. And he goes, go ahead, leave. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's not. You're not even our main. Like, you don't mean anything to us. You know, you're just a fucking mascot. Go off. Go beat off somewhere else. And he basically just shows up. He just shows Homelander what's up. He's like, go ahead, do whatever you want, dude. We don't even need you. You're not even our main goal. You're not our main priority. You don't give us the money. We don't give a shit. Like, you go be a bum somewhere. And considering Homelander, now for me, like if I was Homelander and I was just being like an authoritarian or whatever, I wouldn't give a shit what people thought about me. I just, you know, because you're Superman. You could do whatever you want. You could just hold the entire America hostage if you wanted to, right? Now, I don't know if they have any secret weapons against like superheroes in this show yet, but I'm assuming they would if they made such powerful characters. Like they would have some sort of backup plan if anyone ever tried to overthrow their power, you know, just with their super abilities. So I would assume that they have some sort of weapons against them, but I would just be like, yeah, I don't care what people think. I can just hold this place hostage because I'm so much more powerful than everybody. But because Homelander is such a narcissist and he's such a sociopath, he cares about what people think about him. So he's like, well, I don't want people thinking bad about me. I don't want to be homeless per se. I don't want, you know, basically, Gus is like using his politics and saying, you know, you can be a nobody if you want, or you can be a somebody and stay here and be a good boy. That's kind of the gist of what he's going on about. And hey, Billy Butcher's back. So he just kind of shows up. He beats the shit out of the doorman, and Huey's obviously not having it. He doesn't trust Billy Butcher because he's kind of in it for himself, but everyone kind of is. So I don't understand why he's so pissed off. I mean, he even jumped into the club because he was in it for his own bullshit as well. But Billy Butcher comes back, and the end of the episode is him being like, hey, I'm back, you guys. So now the team is back, but Huey isn't really having it. Huey's a little pissed off, and then we have to move on to the second episode. I hope you guys like my breakdown. If you like this type of content, please go ahead and leave a like. You know, go ahead and share it if you'd like to, and I'll go ahead and see you guys next episode. See you guys. Thank you. Hey, you made it to the end. That means you must enjoy my content, so go ahead and love tap that subscribe button for me. And if you don't like my content, subscribe anyways. My videos are proven to make your schlong longer. Follow me on Parler if you want additional content updates, or if you want to interact with me personally. And join my BitChute channel for additional content. Thanks you guys, see ya.